Hey guys, welcome to the Troy Gramling podcast. It is great to have you with us on this Thursday or whenever you happen to be watching or listening today. Don't forget, we are on all the streaming platforms and there's a live video version on YouTube. Here at Potential Church, we're celebrating our 45th year and we're talking to some really cool people who have helped us be who God's created us to be. And not only the impact they've had here, but the impact they can have on all of our lives with what God has done in and through them. And today I know I say it every time, but today I'm truly excited because one of the folks who've had a bigger impact on my life than almost anyone. There's only been a few people who have truly impacted not only the way I think, but who I have become. One of those is Jackie May. He's a farmer way back in Arkansas. And the other is Pastor Frank Toral, who is with us today. All the way up from West Palm Beach down here to Cooper City. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Pastor Troy. Super honored to be here today.
It is so cool to have you. Now, let's start with this way. Tell us a little bit about you and your family. We'll start there.
Well, been married, just celebrated 20 years. My better half, Olivia.
Congratulations.
And thank you very much. Got 2 kids. I can't believe I'm saying this, but my son just turned 15.
Wow.
So the little hair I have left, he's got his driver's permit. So a little interesting there. My daughter's 17. Wow. So junior and freshman.
And I was there.
You were there.
I was there for the big event.
Yeah.
I mean, not there, but there. You know what I'm saying?
I always remind my kids that you were in the hospital room a few hours after they were born and you kissed them both on the cheek. They're like, really? He did that? I'm like, yeah.
Yes, it was. It's amazing how quickly time passes by. So how long were you a part of Potential Church? When did you start coming?
My fiance at the time, my current wife, we came here in 2002, a year before we were married. I listened to a message by this really tall pastor that dressed really good. And I'm like, I think I like this guy. I'm going to come back. So 2002, and we left to plant a church in 2017. So 15 years.
Wow. And it's interesting to see how God not just brought you here, but then how He used you over that time. Because you did marry that fiance.
I did.
And how long you guys been married now?
20 years.
Wow, that's right. You said that. 20 years, 2 decades.
Don't remind me. She's put up with me for that.
You still got a ways. Steph and I think it's 30, 33, 34, but she gets it wrong too. So I'm not in too big of trouble, but so 35, we'll have to do, at 35, I have to do something.
Absolutely.
I have to figure out something to do. But anyways, I honored that you're here because you came, God brought you here and you got involved and engaged. And what was it that nudged your heart to do more than just sit in a chair? Because, a lot of folks go to church occasionally or maybe often, but they never move beyond that point. They may like the preacher, they may like the music or the way the building is, or maybe they grew up Catholic or whatever it is, but they never engage. And you took that next step. What was it that drove you to do that or caused you to do that, do you think?
Your vision for this church and this world. I founded a law firm in 1995. When we came to the church, I was about 7 years in, and I listened to a message that you preached on moving from success to significance, and I really began to wrestle with what does significance mean in my life. So I, over the years, would volunteer at the church, and the more time I volunteered, the less time I wanted to be at the law firm because I wanted to impact God's kingdom more than my own.
Now, for those of you listening or watching today, Pastor Frank had a very successful law firm, made lots of resources, money over that time period, and yet, and again, just I think it's people listening, it's important. So you engaged, but then you also were generous. You were faithful in your giving. What was that journey like? Was it a difficult journey? Was it easy for you to go from someone who visited, said, this is where I want to be, and then you're coming, and then, you're coming more and you're engaging, and then, then you're giving even above the tithe, and making a huge difference in that way.
I discovered that there was a joy in giving. I knew that it was what God wanted us to do out of a generous heart. And the more I gave, the more I saw God's hand in my life. And it wasn't just in finances. We had 2 great kids. Took us about 14 months to get pregnant before our youngest daughter was born. Every move that I made, I felt like God was protecting me. He would bless me. And I think that our giving had a direct impact on God's hand on our life. And you can't outgive God. I mean, the more we gave, the greater impact we experienced. And for me, it was a huge honor to give here at Potential. Over the years, the different initiatives, growing campuses. I mean, there was a joy. My wife got to the point, are you going to give away our house payment? I mean, it was because we were all in here. I mean, we love this place and love your vision, Pastor Seth's vision. And we're sold out for what God was doing here. So for me, the why was the joy in giving.
And that's such a good point. Some people may never experience it because they're afraid to start, and the impact is, sometimes we either think that I'm just one person, what difference can I make as one person? But that one person can make a huge difference, not only in the amount that they give, but just in the example that they set and the encouragement. I mean, I can tell you as, someone who's casting vision and talking about all these things, your faithfulness was always a huge encouragement, because it's like, people don't just throw money at things they don't believe in. So, I've always appreciated that and seen God's hand on your life through that. And I know for folks who don't know, we're still on TV today. And I know later you're going to talk a little bit about that we're going to share at our big 45th anniversary service. But we would have never been on TV had it not been for you. And you've got a much bigger legacy than just TV here at Potential Church. And we'll talk about how you served on the executive team and everything. But, you were part of a group of guys that I get together with and pray. And at one time in the church, you thought, you know what, or God put on your heart, we need to be on TV. And I remember you shared that with me. And, I grew up at the time, the only people on TV were shysters, or that's what everybody thought. Whether they were or not, I don't know. But, purple suited, guys. And that's like, I just can't imagine that. But I remember thinking, well, if you're going to pay for it, you know what I mean? We'll give it a shot. And you said you would. And they're like, well, we don't have the equipment and stuff. And you said you'll cover it. And then we thought, well, what if we take those resources and we produce it ourselves? Because you were going to pay for like 7 episodes or whatever that series was we were doing. And instead of paying others to do 7, we took and purchased the resources and then produced the TV show and, are still on today. What was it that it's just something God put in your heart? I mean, what caused you to not only say, I'm willing to give to this, but then to challenge others to get on board, but to sacrificially make that happen?
I think about, you've often talked about this, about the power of obedience. And I remember one Sunday you were teaching, and I sensed, not audibly, but in my heart, God saying, Frank, I want you to get up after the service and go tell Pastor Troy that I put on your heart to be on television and that you'll pay for it. I'm like, that's not him. What's going on here? And so I remember approaching you here in this room. And I thought, well, I didn't know what to think. And I said it, and to your credit, you looked at me and you said, all right, Frank, well, let me give that some thought. And within a day or two, you came back and said, all right, Frank, well, let's see what God does. Let's do it. And I think there was so much power in that moment because you have, Pastor Troy, what great leaders have, and that's vision. A vision to see what the future could be. And you took a chance that day. And I believe you stepping out in faith without having all the answers or resources has resulted in a huge, immeasurable impact in this community, all the communities where Potential has a campus, and really all around the world because you said yes.
That's it's so good to be able to think back. Sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you're so busy doing, you don't think about, and how important I mean, that was just a day in your life. You got up, you got dressed, you came to church. It was a day in my life. And yet that decision has had huge impact. It just reminds us how important every single day really is. I mean, what did I miss maybe today, or what did I grab a hold of today that could have led, to a whole new place, to that. Well, in addition to that, we said, hey, you're out there in the world, you're a successful business person, you're an attorney, you've got wisdom, you love God, you love his house. And so we asked you to be on our executive team, which meets once a week and leads out. And you said yes. What surprised you the most when you first started attending those meetings?
How long they were. No.
They're still long. I'm not a good short meeting guy. I know it's not good. I know it's not good.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's true though.
What surprised me was the level of transparency by you and Pastor Steph and the rest of the team. That was really refreshing because, in the marketplace, you don't get that. I shouldn't say everyone, but there's a lot of agendas and there's a lot of, okay, let's get to the point. You let people debate. You let people, kind of get to the best idea. If there was something going on in someone's life, you let that breathe. And I so appreciated that you cared for the people more than what was on the agenda that day. So I was honored to be a part of that experience because I believe it prepared me for what we're doing today. Is all that I learned. And I can't point to one or two or three things, but it was the feeling in the room. It was watching you lead it and watching the team respond to you. And then obviously the results on the weekend and with the campuses, salvations and baptisms, but it really was the experience of being in the room and watching a leader do his thing.
I'm sure folks, out there everybody's in different maybe parts of their life, different professions. I think one of the things that they may not be aware of is it's in all of life, but especially in ministry, it's the pain that's involved in ministry. And you kind of got to see that and experience it, not just see it, but experience it firsthand. What was it? Because it's the church. That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah. Well, you warned me. You said, you sure you want to do this? Because I remember we had a conversation before I joined the team, and you were very transparent. You said, Frank, I just want you to understand something. You're going to see another side to the ministry and another side to me. And so I knew that that my eyes were going to be opened. It wasn't just what was happening on stage on the weekend. It was what makes that run, what makes that work. And it's ministering to people, and that's messy and it can get dirty. And but that's what Jesus did. I mean, he got messy and he got dirty. And so I saw that and I fell in love with God's house through that, through really seeing authentically what a church community is all about.
That's good. I do want to say, if you're out there and you're listening, because there's probably some folks who feel like, man, I'd like to be more involved in the leadership of my church or more engaged in the life of my church. And, one of the things that you did is, and I so appreciated this, is you never pushed yourself. In other words, you partnered. We would go to a conference together. You would take Steph and I would go on vacation somewhere to do something. The best places I've ever been in my life are because, you invited us to go along.
You've been to some nice places since.
Yeah, I've been to a few, but none of that would have. I'm from Paragould, Arkansas. The first good steak I had, and it's not that those things are important, but it's the time, and that's what I mean is that there are folks out there. If you want to get close to a leader, just partner with them. And what I say is you never push because you never said, hey, if I can't be on that team or if I can't be a part of this, then I'm not going to be your friend or I'm not going to give or I'm not. You just partnered with us. And I think anybody out there that wants to be a part of some kind of leadership team, if you'll help that team win, it may take a while. Right. It depends on how long they've been hurt and what their needs are. But eventually they're going to invite you in because every leader is looking for another leader, and someone that that's committed and loyal. Yeah. And I'm sure at times that that was frustrating, you know, and maybe you got a little bit impatient because you were engaged at a level where you wanted to give more. But you in some way, you know, there was a season where you were kind of waiting to be able to do that.
Yeah, I remember that. And I think that a leader's discernment, you know, their ability to select who and when and how. I mean, you took your time with that. I mean, I remember we went on conferences all over the country, some of the biggest churches in America. And sometimes I'd bring that up and you didn't feel I was ready. But boy, when you felt I was ready, boom, let's go. And so what I would say to the folks listening to us, Pastor Troy, about wanting to get involved in the church is just jump in. Is jump in wherever you can, whatever your gifts are. Maybe it's saying hello to people. Maybe it's being kind. Maybe it's greeting people, parking, whatever it is. Maybe it's starting to give and you never have. And then at the opportunity that God nudges you, raise your hand and say, you know what, I want to do more. And then be patient and trust your leader like I trusted you. And the opportunity will come.
No, that's so true. Well, I'm sure some folks are asking, well, then where are you now and what are you doing? So tell us, you know, you're not too far away. You know, you're up in West Palm Beach. We're down in Cooper City. That's what, take you an hour,
Yes.
hour and a half or so to get down here. Well, tell us what you're doing.
Well, I am, my wife and I lead preschools, Christian preschools. And so we're in 6 locations throughout Palm Beach County. And we're growing, working on our 7th. It's been an incredible journey. So what we do is we partner with local established churches and we operate Christian preschools in their existing kid spaces. And so the church benefits because, you know, financially we share revenue with them. We bring hundreds of new families to the church. And for me, I get to be a blessing to God's house. That's my why. I mean, yeah, it's good to, you know, to have all these campuses, but it's to be a blessing. It's to be an encouragement to the senior pastor and their spouse to know that they don't have to worry about it. We take care of it. So that's what we do now. We provide exceptional Christian education, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun.
It's another way, I guess, to give. I mean, to
Yes.
each of those local congregations.
That's exactly right.
So it's exciting to see, because I know talking with you over and over that you think of it as a ministry, not just a business, and especially I would imagine that since COVID and all that's kind of going on in our world, that you became a part of this at just the right time, as far as people looking for safe places to send their kids.
Yeah, we when we acquired the schools in 2019 after COVID, like most schools, we went from 250 students to about 13, and we had invested our life savings in it. We took our 401k, we were all in. We didn't have anything left. I think I had like a week's left of expenses, and I knew God didn't bring us that far to drop us, and so we acquired a secular school. And at that point, I'm like, we're going to go all in. So we started advertising digitally. Hey, we're a Christian preschool. By the end of the year, we were on a waiting list at 2 campuses. And the following summer, we doubled in size and then doubled again. And I think it's because we had the courage to say, no, you know what? We are a Christian school and we're not embarrassed and we're going to embrace it. And I think God was waiting like, all right, Frank, what are you going to do? And I just said, well, we're going to proclaim Jesus. And he honored that.
Well, God's never got to wait very long to ask you what you're going to do, because you're not slow to act. You know what I mean? You may be the one of the biggest risk takers, you know, ready to jump. If you get a sense or a feeling, you're ready to go after it. But at the same time, you know, you're willing to talk to people and read and get information. So what's your process? You know, even like with this, I mean, as you went into this is not, I mean, you were an attorney. You know, you weren't, and as an attorney, you weren't sitting around talking about starting preschools, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, you know, so what was that process as far as thinking through it and then taking that step and say, we're going to go all in?
I think it was, you know, I've had 3 careers, just turned 57. I've had 3 careers in my life, 20 years as a lawyer, pastor, you know, part of the team here for several years. And then opening up the church. I mean, I consider that, you know, still ministry, you know, one church from the other, and then the schools. And so I think it's been, God prepared me to be part of Potential, and then he prepared me to start a church, and then he prepared my wife and I to be in early childhood education. And I think it's been obedience. I think faith has played a huge role, a desperation, like, God, you gotta move here or else we're finished. And every time, I am a risk taker, and that hasn't always worked out, but every time I stepped out in faith, he met me there. Take a step, meet me there. Take a step, meet me there. And so I think it's been maturing us. And I think a lot of it has to do with just that obedience to step into the unknown. And that's been, what I've learned is God's not done with you yet. At 57, I can't believe I'm not even going to say how many years away from 60. I mean, you can do the math, but that in every season, God's with you. Your assignment may change during the course of those seasons, but I think that God has something for us until the last day that we're breathing. And it can be something new and exciting and adventurous. And that's, I think, been the process. It's been something new and something unknown and something that's exciting that we can get passionate about.
Now, you and Olivia couldn't be married for 20 years if she wasn't willing to take a risk as well, but she's not the same type of risk taker that you are.
No.
And, when two people get married, there tends to be those differences. So how have you guys worked through that process when you say, hey, this is what God's laying on my heart? And she's like, what? How have you worked through that?
If you were asking her that question, this would be a long discussion. I think I've learned to listen to her. I mean, she is the greatest blessing that God has given me. And I have seen her bloom as a business leader, as a marketplace ministry leader. She didn't even know that was in her. We have 100 employees now and 100 educators, directors and educators. We just hired a COO. And Olivia's done an incredible job of leading these ladies. And for me, it's doing it together. We're now doing something together, whereas in the law firm and at church, we weren't doing that together. So we've gotten closer. I mean, yeah, there's friction because you're working together, but we've gotten closer. When I was doing really well at the law firm, I'm like, okay, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. When I was at the church, you do your thing and I'll do my thing, and you can come whenever you get a chance. But now I need her. I realize that I need her, and I wish I could go back 20 years and have that same attitude that I need my wife, because God brought us together to help each other.
No, that's good. And it's exciting to see and to hear the commitment that it takes to get to that place. You know what I mean? Again, sometimes we give up too soon, on a relationship or whatever it might be. But to see that happen. So what's the future? As far as you know.
Well, we would like to have neighborhood kids schools in churches across the state of Florida and one day across the country. My son asked me, like, Dad, what do you want to do? And I said, you know what? Noah, I'd like to have 1,000 schools across the country one day. I want to see that. And it's not about the number and it's not about ego, but I want to show them that God is faithful. I want to show my kids that look at what God can do if you'll just follow him, if you'll just trust him. So for us, it's scaling, it's growing purposefully, kind of taking our time. And so the future, I think, is growth, and the future is bringing our kids in to be part of the ministry with the churches and to continue to be a blessing to churches.
So what has surprised you? I mean, you're dealing with not just parents, but the parents of small kids. Sometimes maybe the first time they have to drop them off on the way to work.
Is this being recorded?
Yeah. So you don't have to use names. But what surprised you about as you got into this ministry / business?
That I thought I was done with 2 kids and God gave us another 500-600. But I think what surprised me is kids are a parent's most precious possession. And because of that, there's a lot of emotion attached to it. And so it's kind of putting myself in the position, even though we don't have small kids anymore, to understand that, you know what, Johnny got bit, somebody fell, something happened, to be empathetic and to be patient, but to also understand that we have an incredible opportunity to implant the word of God in their souls. Their souls are fertile soil. And so for me, it's thinking, man, I can do this, and I may not live to see them have kids or grandkids, but it's an incredible honor and responsibility to know that God chose us to partner with churches to bless kids so that they'll come to know Jesus one day. And so I didn't see that coming. I thought it was just you preach, you say, hey, if anybody wants to put on their God jersey, they can accept Christ. I never realized that I could have an impact right where I am just by exposing them to faith, hope, and love.
That's good. That's good. Now, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, or what's the best way to find out what you're doing?
Sure. Our website's neighborhoodkids.net, or they can email me personally at frank@neighborhoodkids.net.
Yeah. So if they're wanting to get involved, or especially if they're a part of a local church that has the space that's especially during the week not being used and could be used to provide resources and a ministry at the same time. Because there's no doubt, even though parents are paying for their children are being raised when they're away from let me say that all again. Even though they're paying, their children are receiving a Christian education. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yes.
As they bring them in. The church is providing that ministry as well as getting some resources to be able to do other ministries with.
Yeah, we just opened up our largest campus at our home church, Journey Church in Lake Worth, under Pastor Scott Baugh. Great pastor, he's a friend, and it's our biggest school. And they're hoping that they have a tremendous impact on their community by ministering not only to the kids, but to the parents and to the grandparents.
Yeah, and there's not a better time. I mean, our school is full. I mean, parents are looking for a safe place to be able to take their kids where they can, be loved, taught, and like you said, faith, hope, and love. So check it out if you're looking for that. Now, before we go, we're just about out of time. I wanted to ask you, as you look back on your time here at Potential Church, what's one of the things that you remember most fondly? Something that it's a positive thought or reflection when you think back on it.
That's easy. Two things: the culture of honor here at Potential, that is really scarce in the business world and hard to find sometimes in ministry. The way that Potential honors everyone that comes in, whether they're a first-time guest or if they've been here for 20 years, the way they honor the staff, that culture of honor is really rare. And the second one that's a little closer to my heart is just my family being here and just spending time with you. Miss that a whole lot.
Yeah, I miss it as well, but I appreciate the time that we did have, and
Absolutely.
I'm very, very thankful for the impact that you've had. And that's a great reminder to all of us, that there are people that just our presence can impact. There are some people you see them coming and you're like, okay, and then there are other people that you see coming and you're like, okay, now is going to be a good time, and you've always been one of those, you and Olivia both. And so Steph and I appreciate that, and thankful for all that you did here and the impact that you had, and look forward to the future. And
to the next 45 years.
45. All right, guys. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in today. I am so glad that you decided to be a part of the Troy Gramling podcast. Hey, we're here every Thursday. You can watch it anytime. We're on every streaming platform as well as a video version on YouTube. Today has been incredibly enjoyable for me to get to hang out with Pastor Frank and reflect and learn a little bit of what God's done in his life and how we can apply it to our own. Have a great day, and God bless. We'll see you next Thursday, all right?